Welcome back to the channel. My name is Maximus.
Today we're going to be talking about winterization. So to get started, the purpose of winterizing your trailer is to remove all of the fresh water from not only your freshwater tank, but from also the lines within the trailer so that it doesn't freeze during the cold season. So if you live in an area that never gets below freezing, this video is probably not applicable for you. But for the rest of us who live in areas where we do have sub-freezing temperatures, this is always a good idea. I know that a lot of trailers advertise that they're 4 seasons or being able to use in colder months, but I wouldn't trust that, and I would always make sure that you properly winterize your trailer so that you don't have any further problems with broken water lines, broken water heater tanks, or anything in between. So let's go ahead and let's start. So to get started, there's 2 types of winterization, and you can actually do one or the other, or you can kind of combine them. And the 2 methods are using an air compressor or some sort of forced air to blow out all of the water lines to get rid of any water that's remaining in there. And the other one is to use the antifreeze method, where you can basically put antifreeze throughout your lines, and that will prevent any liquid from freezing as well. I don't usually prefer to do the antifreeze just because I prefer not to have those chemicals in my trailer if I can avoid it. We don't drink from those lines, but we just kind of like to avoid that as we use that water for cooking sometimes and just other things throughout our camping experience. So I just wanted to give you guys some options here on some of the equipment that I have. I have this pancake air compressor that comes in handy, along with just an air hose here with standard male and female ends here. These things here are adapters. Basically what they are garden hose type thread. On one side we have a male and a female, and then on the opposite they have air compressor connections here. So these come in handy to connect to like the water inlet and perhaps some other things that your trailer may have, and you're able to kind of blow those lines out by screwing these into those threaded areas and then using the air compressor to do that. These items here are things that I kind of custom made. Basically it's a male threaded end. This is a little smaller than the garden hose. This is actually for my pump. So I can disconnect some of the water lines next to the pump, and I can use these to thread onto those and essentially use the air compressor to blow out any water that direction as well. This is the same thing with just a female end instead of the threaded male end. So I'll link all these below in case you guys are interested in kind of doing the same thing that I did. But let's go ahead and get started here. Alright, so one thing that's really important if you guys plan to do this on your own with the air compressor method is you need to make sure that you have an air compressor that has what we call a regulator here. So what this does is you have your tank pressure here, which is your PSI, and then you have the regulated pressure, and it means that you can regulate how much output that the compressor is giving to your line that you have. So if we kind of zoom in here a little bit, we can see that we have way too much pressure here. So there's a plus and a minus here, and we want to basically turn this to where we have about 30 or so PSI. We don't want to blow and damage the lines of our RV, but we do want to make sure there's enough pressure to kind of push out any remaining water that's in there. So I turn this down here until I reach right about just below about 40 or so, kind of close to that 30 PSI mark. And you want to keep an eye on this because this may change as you are using it. So you may not have a big consistent pressure if you have a smaller air compressor like this. But this is very important. We don't want to push too much pressure through the lines or we may damage them. Okay, so step 1 is you want to come to your freshwater drain valve here, and you want to make sure that this is open. This is kind of step 1 because you want to get rid of the excess water that may be in the freshwater tank. If you have anything remaining, that'll be the easiest and quickest way to get rid of that water. The next thing is most likely your trailer has these lines, which are called the low point drains. For red should be the hot water line, and blue should be the cold water. We want to make sure that these are open as well. And these valves didn't actually come on the trailer. This is something that I added, so I'll link those in the description as well in case you guys are interested. Some of them have something similar like this, but others actually just have solid caps that you put on the bottom, which are nice, but also can be just a lot more work trying to screw those on and off, where these have a 90 ball valve built in to where you can just close them very easily. Okay, the next step is going to be, if your trailer is equipped with a water heater, there's a good chance you have a plug like this, and we need to undo that to drain the water that is in the water heater. So mine is a 1 1/16 size socket here. So we'll go ahead and we'll just undo this. So once you pull this anode rod out, you want to double check and see. So mine is actually getting pretty worn down. You can see some buildup here inside as well. And so you want to replace these sooner than later. They'll last maybe 1 or 2 seasons, but you want to keep an eye on these. I'll also leave a link down below on some different options that you guys can buy in case you need some. For the time being though, we're going to go ahead and we're just going to set this right in here, and we're actually going to leave that there for now. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to push this and twist this into this here. Once we have that in, we're going to go ahead and plug our air compressor into this. Now you'll be able to hear some water kind of running through here. So you may notice that some water might be dripping out of your drain lines here, which is expected. You'll want to find your hot water tank as well. Mine is actually located in my storage compartment up in the front, but a lot of the times they're either in an area like that, or sometimes they're under a bed, or maybe in a closet depending on your RV. Could be in some of the basements on a bigger fifth wheel or other type of RV. And there's going to be a couple of bypass valves. Mine only currently has 1, but sometimes there's 2 or 3. You'll want to flip those, and basically what we're doing by doing that is we're going to be bypassing the hot water tank. Here what I'm doing is I'm basically undoing the water supply line that feeds into the pump, and I'm going to be using those custom made kind of pipes that I showed you guys earlier. And what this does is this allows me to connect into both sides of these lines here at the same time with each one of these lines, and then I can blow out the supply line to the pump as well as hook into the pump and blow out everything beyond the pump, as we'll see in just a second as well. So once I have both of those connected, I'll go ahead and plug into one here. I believe this one is going to be flushing out the supply line. So that's pretty simple because it's a very short line. I'll just go ahead and let that run for a second. And then you'll see here that I'll actually plug into the other line here. And this is going to be pushing air through the pump as well as the lines that are after the pump. So once you do that, you'll want to go ahead and just start going to each faucet and turning it on. You'll see that the water is getting pushed out, followed by some air. And you want to walk around and do this on all of the faucets, including any of the outdoor ones that you may have. You'll see me do that here in a second. And I almost forgot, so this is a good reminder that you will want to do this to your toilet as well. Make sure that you try and flush your toilet and blow out all of the remaining excess water that may be trapped inside of the toilet, as I almost forgot, and that is not something you want to leave in there and cause damage potentially to that. When doing your shower as well, what I like to do is actually blow out the shower line, and then I actually will disconnect the hose that comes from the faucet up to the shower head as well, just to make sure that there's no remaining water kind of in the hose anywhere, and it gives it a chance to kind of just gravity drain and make sure that that's completely empty. And there you have it. That's a basic winterization process. So what I would do from here is I would get a little bit, like a cup of RV antifreeze, and I would just pour that down each drain in terms of your sink drain, shower drain, bathroom sink drain. Maybe just pour a tiny bit down the toilet as well. And that way, that'll take care of any P-traps that still may have some liquid in there. You want to make sure that you do that, as that's important because that water that's in there could still freeze as well. So it's kind of one of the final steps. I like to come out and unscrew the cap for your dump tanks and basically get a bucket here and just let any excess water that might still be in any of the tanks out. Obviously you want to make sure that your tanks have already been dumped and that there's very little in here, or you might have some problems that won't be fun. Another thing that you want to make sure is that you get any foods that will potentially be ruined by experiencing sub-freezing temperatures, as well as any toiletry items in your bathroom or anything else that can be damaged by excessive cold temperatures. You want to make sure that you store those outside of your trailer back into your home or somewhere that's going to be maintained with heat.
Make sure to like and subscribe and stay tuned for the next video.